All right, welcome back. Russ Bellant is a longtime library commissioner here with the City of Detroit, a longtime community advocate as well. So, administrative fee 1.5 million?
1.2.
1.2 million?
Yes. Again, undocumented
for
purposes.
For what? What services is the city rendering to require that?
I don't think they're doing it out of any statutory. They're doing it administratively on their own without. That's never been presented to the Library Commission for discussion. See,
right.
Prior to implementation, so the administration costs that they have is they issue the checks, as I explained earlier, out of our account. So they have somebody who does that, and they send our budget to City Council for final approval. So the Library Commission adopts a budget. Presents it to the budget department. Usually they don't change anything. They send it to City Council, it gets approved. That doesn't cost a lot of money. Issuing the checks, there's a cost with that, of course, because it's payroll and so forth. We pay separately into the city's pension fund for our employees. So the administrative fee is not connected to our pension obligations. And so it's part of the disrespect. You do wire fraud and we lose $407,000. So what? We can't afford these tax captures. They're putting us in debt, and our reserve fund will be exhausted in a few years if you keep doing this, down to the legal limit. And we're going to have to do major library closings if the city keeps these tax captures without compensating us. And then you throw on this administrative fee. In a few years, when they jack up the tax captures up to the 4.7 million that they plan to jack it up to, they'll be taking almost 6 million out of our $30 million budget, 20%. And so if people want a library system in the city of Detroit, they've got to tell the city.
Yeah.
And this starts with the mayor. Quit appropriating the funds from the library. Find another way to fund the developers. Why don't you tell them to go to a bank and get a loan? That's how most of America was built. That's how we do it with our houses. And
we hope Mayor Mike Duggan is listening to this, because this story is not out there, and that's why I wanted you to come in, Ross, because I know you're very detailed in these issues, and you care about the library and where it stands. Let's talk about Scott Benson. He introduced a resolution to change the governance structure of the public library. He said in the papers recently that the library is no longer sustainable, but he has not explained all the things that you have explained here. Talk about Scott Benson here and him wanting to change the governance structure of the library commissioners to ensure that the City Council appoints who sits on the library board as opposed to the Board of Education.
Yes. When this started last year, when the Library Commission refused to give the city the waiver over the wire fraud money. Scott Benson at that time introduced a resolution to City Council. When I heard about
So the waiver over the wire fraud was for?
The city wanted us to sign a waiver that we would lose the money and that they had no responsibility for the wire fraud.
Okay, to abdicate themselves of any responsibility.
That's
basically
correct.
And it's almost like an indemnity clause.
That's right.
So you guys refused to do that?
Yes.
The library refused to do that?
All commissioners were against doing it.
So Scott Benson came with a resolution to
I
change the governance structure.
I can't say that was his motive, but that's the timing.
Around the same time.
That's correct. And those who know that member of council well know that he works in close tandem with the administration.
He's a big supporter of the mayor.
But a supporter, but also an operative. A number of times when Brenda Jones was president of the council, the mayor bypassed Brenda Jones as president of the council through Scott Benson, who organized, people like Andre Spivey and other members of council, Gabe Leland and so forth, to form a majority against the president.
Andres Spivey, I want to let our viewers, Andres Spivey was convicted in federal court for corruption. Gabe Leland took a plea deal on a corruption investigation. Scott Benson's home was raided by the FBI in a federal corruption probe as well. But so go ahead in terms of Scott Benson wanting to change the governance structure here. What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with it is, one, libraries are supposed to be independent. They're not supposed to be creatures of political operatives. And when you have part of the duties with the school board, which are minimal, appointing the library commissioners over the governance, and then you have the city, playing in a fiduciary role, but not governing role. That keeps the library independent. The library is a sovereign, it's a hybrid, but it's a sovereign municipal corporation, and it has powers of a municipal corporation. They can, I forget the term, I'm blanking now, but where they can seize property. When the city or the state can condemn property or take property for public projects. The library can do that too. It has it's a municipal corporation. And so it's there to serve an education function. The city government is not an education entity. The Detroit School District is, and we work in concert with the schools in programmatic activity. But no money changes hands between us. The city, one of the things that the city has, city council staff have put out, the legislative policy division, is that we get 0.64 of our millage from the Detroit schools. Scott Benson said repeatedly at a council meeting last week, at a committee meeting, that the school district controls the commission. All these are falsehoods. And when you try to correct them, they act like they don't want to hear it because it serves their purpose to tell whatever mistake or lie. At first you assume it's a mistake. When they refuse to spend it, then it becomes a lie. And that's what we've been fighting. However, to have a positive note, when Benson introduced that last year, people were interested, and he kept saying, well, we shouldn't be voting on the budget when we had no input in the budget. Well, they don't have any input in the Water and Sewerage Department budget. They don't have any, direct input in any of the other budget. That's not how the budget department works.
Right.
And so, and I'm a city retiree. And I worked in many department activities.
But Scott Benson's explanation is not logical.
It's untruthful. And so the Legislative Policy Division said in a committee meeting last week, they detailed.
I saw that 152-page report. That's Alvin Corley. When I used to cover City Hall, I interacted with Alvin Corley a lot, as well as Dave Whitaker, who used to head RAD, Research and Analysis Division. So do you feel that the 152-page report that was released at the origin, drafted at the request of Scott Benson, you feel he's trying to soften the ground here for a takeover of the library?
It's very explicit. It said,
I think it's a ruse.
He outlined the history of financial problems with the library concerning millage and tax captures, and that was, he gave a sound report on that. Then he talked about the failure of the city to provide any bond money for capital expenditures, and so he was giving a good historical critique
he's
of the city.
appearing neutral. He's trying to be objective.
But then he turns around and says, well, City Council, if you want to correct these and help the library, perhaps you'd be more comfortable if you just take it over.
So he's speaking from two sides of his mouth.
So
he's a hypocrite.
And it's his report. If you go to the third attachment to that report on page 6, where he reports, and they've been reporting this since April 26th of 2021 about these 4.64 mills. And when I was president of the Library Commission, and the library director herself have tried repeatedly to get them to correct this error, they've refused to do it. So it's in there. And so between what Benson's saying and this
Right.
report that he requested saying, they're
Yeah.
trying to make it look like the
Yeah.
school district over controls it, and
Well,
we
well,
need more
yeah.
say. But it's not true.
Yeah, I feel like Benson is trying to implement a takeover machine here.
Yeah.
He starts with a resolution to change the governance structure.
Yes.
That went nowhere. He comes up with a report. I mean, before there's a takeover, there's always a report to justify the takeover.
Yes.
Which I think he's doing here. But it's just like...
He's trying again because it failed last year.
Yeah.
Now, I spent a lot of time last year at City Council committee meetings and committee of the whole sessions, and talked to a lot of members. 7 members of City Council were against the proposal last year.
To take over the library.
To take over the library.
Yeah.
Very strong. And so Benson quit talking about it for a while, and now they're back again.
Yeah.
And
So what do you think as we end this segment here? What do you think the library ought to do? You've been there. You were in the commission for 12 years. What should the library do moving forward?
I'll say the library should keep doing its mission to the public, serving the needs, from the against the digital divide, against their,
Right.
helping. So we're doing like from pre-kindergarten children's activities, for senior citizens. We're doing stuff. We keep doing that. The citizens themselves and need to organize and start saying, take your hands off the library, take your hands out of their pockets, restore it. And if you say that bond money that you're stealing every year is committed for 20 to 30 years, which is what they say, they have to keep taking it for 20 to 30 years, then you take your money out of your general fund and you make them whole, okay? The citizens have to stand up.
Yeah.
And, I'm planning to make 2023 the year where I'm focused on educating the public and letting them know what's going on. I'll tell you, I did a survey in 2021 in my neighborhood. I went to 300 homes. Only one house had anybody who knew about tax captures. That was in 2021.
Wow.
So the last thing I should say about tax captures is there is no public record that any citizen can get as to who is getting the money that the mayor is taking from the libraries. Huge hits on the Detroit public schools, and that's having an adverse effect on their ability to sell bonds because they take so much millage. The bond market said, we don't
Right.
think you can pay us back.
Right.
So it's having a negative impact. And if you think, helping a millionaire build an apartment building downtown is worth taking down, I'll just say this. Downtown development as practiced by the city leads to neighborhood underdevelopment.
All right.
We've got to fight.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right. Russ Bellant, a longtime community advocate, former member of the Detroit Library Commission Board, a perspective you won't get anywhere else. That's why every Sunday you can tune into Sunday Nation.